Hi, in this video I'll describe the components used and why they were selected. I'll then lay them out on my work table before beginning the case preparation. Please forgive me for the background sound during the unboxing as I had the TV on and I didn't really think about it. But before I do the unboxing or case preparation, I'll go over the tools used in this project. So let me start. Let me grab my tools. Okay. Good idea to have a set of small screwdrivers, particularly Phillips head screwdrivers, P0 through P2, and wouldn't hurt to have the P00 as well. That'll cover pretty much all of your screwdriver needs. Needle nose pliers. Diagonal cutters. They come in a lot of different sizes and types. I prefer the flush cut type, as you can get closer to the tie wraps to cut off the stems. So flush cuts are always a good idea. Wouldn't hurt to have some nut drivers, adjustable wrench and wrenches and that kind of thing. In addition to that, if you're going to be doing any work with tape, and again in my case I used a Gorilla Tape, so if you're going to be using tape, obviously you need the tape, but also useful or necessary is a razor knife to cut it. In my case I used a Corsair cooling block for the CPU, and it comes with thermal paste on it, but whatever cooling system you might use might not have that, so having thermal paste is a good idea. And even if you have thermal paste on the cooling block like I have with my Corsair, if you mess that up in some way, probably a good idea to have thermal paste to replace it. Another thing that's useful is an anti-static mat. Let me put this down. An anti-static mat with wrist straps for working on the motherboard and RAM and CPU. You've got thousands of dollars invested in those components and you don't want to risk screwing them up. So having an anti-static mat is a good idea. Other things that are useful or necessary, a good amount of AC lighting and some flashlights, a small box to hold screws, and a work table. Okay, now the components that I used in this, beginning with the case, I got a Thermaltake Core V71 case, which is a medium-large case with a kind of modern industrial look. It comes with 3 200mm fans and is capable of adding upwards of 8 hard drives. So it's got some expansion capability, and I like the look of it. The power supply, also Thermaltake, is a Touch Power TPD 0750M, which is a 750 watt power supply that's gold rated, so it's 94% efficiency between 20% and 100%. So that's sized pretty well appropriate for my PC, which I've measured maximum power consumption of about 500 watts. So 750 certainly covers that, with some to spare in case I want to add some additional components. And it's not overly spec'd like a 1200 watt might be. Now, the motherboard is a Asus X99 Pro / USB 3.1 motherboard. And it has the support for the LGA 2011 V3 CPUs, such as the Intel i7 processor that I'm putting in it. Now, the other factors that it has is USB 3.1 and PCIe M.2 support, and we'll go over that in just a minute. And the processor, again, an Intel i7 processor. In this case, the 5820K Haswell E 6-core CPU that's unlocked, and you can then overclock it. So that was the reason I chose that processor. It's reasonably high performance. You can get higher performance processors, but you're going to spend a whole lot more. So it's sort of at the inflection point on price performance for CPUs, at least when I built. The next item is G.Skill Ripjaws V-Series RAM. 32 gigabytes, 4x8, DDR4 with 3200 speed, and 14, 14, 14, 34 timing. So 4 sticks, 8 gigabytes each. Pretty good stuff, and not cheap, but not the most expensive out there. GPU, I spent a good deal of money on that, like $650, and that's for the EVGA GeForce GTX 980 Ti hybrid gaming GPU. Now, that's got 6 gigabytes of the VRAM, and the hybrid version, as this is water cooled, so it has a 120 by 120 millimeter fan and radiator. The boot drive and main OS drive is a Samsung 950 Pro M.2 PCIe SSD. Now that's version 3 and it's 4 lanes, and it's 512 gigabytes. So that plugs into the motherboard, so I don't need a hard drive slot for it, and it's about as fast as you can get. I mean, literally about 4 times faster than a fast SATA-based SSD. So that's a really high performance item, and I'm glad I got that. For my main storage, where I have my video and image archive, I have 2 6 terabyte Western Digital Black hard drives. Now they're 7200 RPM with 128 megabyte cache. So they're pretty good, and 6 terabytes is fairly large, not the largest. And I already have the image and video drive half filled, and my second 6 terabyte hard drive, which I put the video, 4K video from my drone, that's got about 600 plus gigabytes on it already in less than half a year. Now for cooling, I have, in addition to the three 200 millimeter fans that came with the Thermaltake case, I have a Corsair Hydro Series H100i GTX CPU water cooling system. Now that's got the 240 millimeter by 120 millimeter radiator and 220 millimeter cooling fans. So that's what I'm using to cool the Intel i7 processor. For optical storage, I have a LG Electronics 14X SATA Blu-ray internal rewriter. And for user interface with USB type stuff and flash cards, I have an ATEC Flash Technology, Pro 77U flash card and USB interface that has 4 USB 3.0 ports, plus flash card ports for compact flash cards, MS Duo cards, SDXC cards, and micro SDXC cards. So that handles most of the kind of user interface stuff. The other user interface stuff, the kind of standard stuff, the mouse and keyboard, and I'm not into gaming, so I don't have a high-end gaming keyboard. So I got a Microsoft Sculpt Comfort desktop mouse and keyboard, which communicates with a PC using a Wi-Fi dongle. And finally, the OS is Microsoft Windows 10 Home. And I purchased that from Amazon in the USB stick, so just plug that into your USB drive when you're installing the OS. So that covers the kind of overview on this. The next step, I'll show you the unboxing, and then the last will be the case preparation. So, thanks for watching.
Behaviors may include aggressiveness, confusion, agitation, and hallucinations. The inability to move while falling asleep or waking up, and temporary leg weakness have also been reported. In depressed patients, worsening symptoms
Okay, first is the USB and flash reader. Next is the Asus X99 Pro USB 3.1 motherboard.
Your brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen looks sugary.
Next is the Thermaltake 750 watt power supply.
Shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, the name to remember.
And the Corsair H100i GTX CPU cooler.
Intellectual property being stolen. That's cybercrime, and it affects each and every one of us. Microsoft created the Digital Crimes Unit to fight
Okay,
cybercrime.
looks like
We use
a
the Microsoft
Western
Cloud
Digital hard drive.
so we can track down criminals.
When it comes to the cloud, trust and security are paramount.
We're building what we put back into the cloud to make people and organizations safer.
Okay, Western Digital 6 gigabyte hard
And
drive.
a cold with sinus pressure, you need fast relief. Alka-Seltzer Plus Severe Sinus Congestion and Cough Liquid Gels rush relief to tough symptoms.
Should be the other hard drive.
Take control. Alka-Seltzer Plus Sinus.
What is $5 buy at Papa Murphy's? Scratch pizza, freshly grated mozzarella, and the satisfaction of a large home.
So there's the second 6 gigabyte or terabyte hard drive.
Every day. Papa
And the
Murphy's.
last item in this box is the LG optical drive.
Attorney General today named leaders of an independent state investigation into the
Okay, so the LG optical drive. So let me look at my list. Okay, previously received earlier today, Windows 10 Home USB, Samsung 950 Pro M2, from Newegg, the 32 gigabyte
Guys, it's
Ripjaws G-Skill
setting is
RAM, and the Intel i7 5820K processor.
about half of Minerva.
Enter PCH.com and ready work 26 win forever.
Seems to be a roadblock.
That reminds me, anyone who constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, one Phillips probiotic cup each day helps defend against occasional digestion.
Okay, so there's the anti-static mat.
We witness the community come together. Unified police officers KSL all day for a final salute to a fallen Utah hero.
Finally tonight, the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers are now set for Super Bowl 50.
And the EVGA GeForce
Difference between quarterbacks.
GPU.
Peyton Manning won 13 years apart. Here's NBC's Janet Chandler.
Okay.
NFL's experienced exercise quarterback with an arm like a rifle who can dive over any defense.
Old school about ready to get new.
Newton has also made a comeback after 14 months ago. Today, they sold more of his jerseys than during the holidays. A quarterback duel, for and of the ages, as Newton and Manning make for a clash of the
Okay.
Janet Shelley and NBC News.
That'll do it for us this Sunday night. Brian Lester home for all of us.
And of course, the
Thanks for watching.
lid would have to tuck under, right?
KSL News starts now.
I know this is the greatest honor of his life. I feel so proud of him. And I'm proud of all of you who wear blue in any color uniform. I'm proud of you, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your service.
Tonight, Officer Doug Barney laid to rest. Thousands attend the funeral, with thousands more walk the streets to show their respect. Good evening. It's been an incredible day, one full of sadness, optimism, hope, even pride. KSL has been covered detail remembers Officer Barney.
Good evening, Inspector Mike Anderson, who's at the ceremony at the Marriott Center in West Valley. Mike, what a huge for today.
Thousands of people out the type of send-off that Officer Barney likely would have wanted. His wife says that he at times had a bit of a fascination with officers who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Today, she
Okay.
knows why.
That looks like we have everything. And now the prep will be, I'm going to pull off the covers. So let me go ahead and do that. And with the V71, these two thumb screws here, and then the door slides out and pops right off. We'll remove the top cover, just lift up. Okay, what's the deal here? There we go. And the front cover. And let's rotate it around. We'll get the back cover off. Similar thumb screw arrangement. Okay, covers are off. Now, the initial configuration as it came from the factory, from the front we have two 200mm fans, and one of the nice things about this case is it has and is provisioned for 200mm fans, so you get a lot of airflow and not a lot of noise. Very desirable thing. So, two 200mm fans in the front, set up as intake, so pushing air in. We have another 200mm fan at the top, configured for exhaust, so pulling air out. The only other stock fan that comes with it is this 14 or 140mm fan, also configured as exhaust. So what I'm going to be doing though is removing this fan, because I'm going to be sticking the GPU cooler, water cooler, in that spot. I'm going to be adding the Corsair H100i cooler to here underneath, mounted to the bottom side of the case frame, and using the two fans on the Corsair that come with it as push fans, and this fan here as a kind of like a pull fan. So it'll be a modified push-pull configuration. I'll go into more detail about how the fans and whatnot and the coolers are mounted when we're in the build phase. But I need to remove that fan. I'm also going to be adding a 120mm fan to the bottom to add more airflow into the case. And additionally, since the Samsung 950 Pro PCIe SSD gets pretty hot when it's being taxed, I wanted to put some additional airflow on that. The motherboard mounting in here, the PCI or the Samsung 950 Pro is going to be mounted right about here. That's the location on the motherboard where it'll go. So mounting a fan right here should provide some additional flow onto that 950, which hopefully will limit the necessity for throttling on the 950, improving performance. And if the fan arrangement is insufficient to provide that, I may arrange some sort of deflector so that more of the air from that fan is pushed onto the 950 Pro. So I'm going to be removing that fan and installing this fan down here. So let me go ahead and do that. This particular case, obviously it comes with a 140mm fan in this location, And the radiator that I'm going to be installing in here for the GPU is 120 millimeters, so not the same size, but the back panel here on the case is configured to handle either 140 or 120. So the 120 fan will fit on there without much problem. So that's out of the way. Now to install the 120 fan, let me rotate this around like that. Actually, first, let me push these cables through so they're out of the way. Okay, now the reason you have to do that is you need to slide the filters out of the way in order to mount the radiator, or I'm sorry, fan. So let me go ahead and do that. These are the same size. And again, I want to make this a exhaust, or I'm sorry, intake fan. And I want the cable like that. So I want the cable to be able to go out and be towards the back. So let me see where best. Again, I'm kind of lining this up with where the motherboard's going to go, and particularly where the 950 Pro is going to go. But I also need to leave space for the power supply. I kind of dry fitted components beforehand, so I know where the power supply is going to go, and I know this location that I'm going to be putting the fan is not going to be an interference. So I think one more spot down. Let me confirm that. You know, I'll go back one more just to prevent an interference issue. Okay, there we are. So after I put this fan in, we'll have pretty much completed the prep work, and we'll move on to the build. So this video is almost over. Now you don't want to torque these down too much. This is just kind of cutting into the rubber, plasticky rubber grommet arrangement in the corners of the fans. So just kind of snug it up, and that's it. Okay. So let me pop this back up again, and we'll go over just a little bit more on the case that we didn't cover. Obviously we have the drive bays, and up front we have the two 5 1/4 slots for the flash reader and for the optical drive. So, oh, I forgot to remove the top fan. That was one of the prep things to do, so let me remove this top fan. I'm doing that because the installation of the Corsair H100i radiator below here, I want to be able to make use of this fan as efficiently as possible as a pole fan. Now it's not really designed that way, but the case has got slots and holes and other, cracks and openings that would allow the pull action from this fan to kind of seep around it. So I'm going to see if I can tape off the cracks and grooves around here that aren't needed for cooling and would bleed or leak through. So we'll do as best we can with that, but I'm not counting on a whole lot from that. So, all right, disconnect the fan. And that's out of the way. Okay, on to build.